And we are live. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
I'm being harassed again. She knows.
Your cat is trying to become the star of the show. We've got to stop
She is the star of the show. Don't you
that.
realize that?
Good morning, everybody. We're going to just start with an intro because that's how shows are supposed to start, apparently. I'm one of your hosts here, Noir. That's Anita.
Hi.
And we have a guest today, as we have every episode of the show. Justice, thank you for stopping by or dropping in. This sounds more like an outro than anything. I haven't drunk in any of my coffee yet.
You're forgiven.
I don't know how to people right now. Thanks for being here.
Starting with intros. What? Who have you become? Well, it's almost like one of our viewers made a bingo card, and the free space was that we didn't start our intros until 45 minutes into the stream. Kelsey.
Oh no.
Our audience has been making us get better by using Penny as a teaching tool.
Sometimes it works.
Good morning.
So they have a bingo card, like they made a real bingo card?
They
They
made a
made
real
a
bingo
real bingo card.
Wow.
With a
That's
lot of
pretty
the
good.
stuff that we do. Like there's a apparently me and Anita have a tendency of arguing about who should talk. Like if I say something and then Anita starts to say something, we'll argue for like 5 minutes about who goes first. That's one of the spaces on there, and I'm cognizant of it now.
Well, shoot, now I feel like I should have brought one of the bingo cards and played.
Good morning, Lauren. Good morning, Lynn. It's good to see you. And good morning, Kelsey. See you all in chat.
So, let's have you introduce yourself to the people, Justice. Tell them who you are and a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Justice Arman. I am a tabletop designer and writer based in Central Texas. I work full-time at Beetle and Grimm's, making super awesome box sets for D&D adventures. And then I do some freelance writing. I've written for Adventurers League, MCDM, and some other places.
That's insanely cool. I've seen you in so many games, and I'm just like, oh man, I gotta check that out.
Yeah, it's so fun. Ever since I joined the community, I've gotten to play a lot more games because I'm usually the DM, and
That's
so they're like, "What do you want to play?" I'm like, "I don't know."
How long have you been with Beetle and Grimm's?
I joined with them. I met them first at Gen Con 2018 when they were sort of, but sort of not debuting Waterdeep Dragon Heist. That was before they had any boxes out, so they were in that weird position of here's what you could get in a box, but the adventure hadn't come out yet, so they like couldn't show any pieces of it unless Wizards said they could. And I joined on with them the following year at Gen Con, so I've been working for them since mid to about summer 2019.
Nice.
See, this is one more reason that I miss Gen Con, because that's where all the fun meeting stuff happens.
Right?
Yeah. Gen Con is a good time.
Yeah.
2019 was the first year I went, and it's the last con that I went to before everything shut down.
It's a good con too. There's so much at Gen Con. It could be like sensory overload sometimes, but it's a good one.
Yeah.
I went to Gen Con 2019 for all of 15 minutes. Me and my buddy took a road trip to get utility kilts, and that was the only thing that we did.
Did you actually leave with a kilt though?
No, they didn't have it in my size.
Oh man.
Disappointing.
And also, I didn't realize how expensive utility kilts could get. They're up there.
They are expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like 2/3 of a PlayStation.
Oh my goodness.
If Punkle Nix is in chat right now, he can attest to how expensive those can get.
People should be paying Nick's to wear utility kilt, though, honestly.
And I think that
kilt
should
game.
definitely be his next sponsor.
Kilts. Oh yeah. I think he had put something about a kilt recently, like maybe an affiliate link or something like that. And I was really tempted. And when I say recently, I mean like in the blur of last year, probably.
That's
It's
fair.
probably like been 6 months.
Last year was an exercise in what it looks like when time gets compressed and stretched, like you're going through a wormhole.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, at some point, we're gonna have like the dudes of TTRPG just in kilts, like a calendar.
Yeah. Kilt calendar, I'm for it.
Yeah.
Here for all of this.
So did you go to like Gen Con, like was that work, or was that just you going to a con for fun and you ended up, meeting who would eventually be your new employers?
Yeah, so the first time I went there just for fun, I went in the previous year. We had never been to a real like convention. I was talking with some of the people in our D&D group, and I said, hey, like there's apparently this convention, Gen Con 50. It's going to be really big. There's still tickets. Do y'all want to go for like one day? So we took a 16-hour road trip. Went there for one day on Saturday, not realizing how big this convention was. There was a part that I like had to sit up against the bathroom because it dawned on me. I was like, I'm not going to see everything. This is way more than I thought it was. And then we went home the next day. So I ended up driving something like 40 hours or something in the span of like 3 days.
Oof.
It was super rough, but I loved that convention. So when I went back the next year, we went all 4 days. And Samantha, my wife, she came with us that time, and she loves D&D and TTRPGs, and it was really cool to kind of like show her all of that. And then I found the B&G booth, and I was still working in healthcare at that point. And wanting to at some point make a jump or start part-time or something in this industry. And I met Bill Rahor, who's the CEO Goblin at B&G. And he works at a hospital which had the same name as the hospital I worked. So I actually came up to him in wizard cosplay the first time. And chatted with him for a bit, and then emailed him once a month, just seeing if there was some way that I could, work at their booth or do some sort of anything that I could for them. That was before I had even started writing. And I would sit and obsess over these emails and read them back to my wife and be like, what do you think about that? Should I send it now? Should I say this? And she would help me. She's like the best in-house proofreader I could ever ask for. The following year they were like, why don't you come work at the convention? And I brought something I had written and put up on the DMs Guild, and I showed it to them. They're like, oh, this is actually pretty good. Yeah. Well, let's start here and go from there. And and I was higher.
So that's a topic that I'm actually very fascinated with, as it's something that I'm doing myself personally, which is making the jump from a career that most people would say, is the way to go. Like, healthcare, that's, I mean, everybody's always going to need assistance in the healthcare field, but going and chasing your passion, like you went for it, and that's awesome. I gotta ask you, what, was there fear or hesitation in making that jump?
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people think about this question. There are, being in the U.S. Is a little different because our healthcare as far as like insurance and stuff is so much so expensive here.
Yeah.
There are some places where you can get coverage and outside of your job, not through a marketplace, and so that was always a concern of mine, is I need to be able to buy probably like a $300 to $400 health plan on the side, which is that's a lot of money to pay for healthcare. And when you're working in healthcare, you have very good coverage for arguably not a lot of money. And I was thinking I would make this jump 5 years into writing. That was my plan. 5-year plan. I would write for 5 years. I would try to work in the community part-time or something at some point, and I would save and look into options. And it came a little bit sooner, about a little over 2 years into the community. And yeah, it was definitely scary. I mean, I found healthcare because it was secure, and stable. And I grew up, I was I don't know why I use as a filler word, because most people don't know what I'm about to say. I'm like, I was in musical theater, but yeah, I loved musical theater, and I like drawing and things like that. So my parents were always really concerned that I would go into an artistic field. They would tell me after doing a play, in high school, they'd be like, now remember, this can't be your career. This is just a fun side thing. And I'm like, I know. I still want to be a doctor, yada, yada, yada. And after I got out of undergrad, I was applying to all these medical schools, and I turned to Sam and I was like, I don't think I want to do this. It's like, I don't think I want to be a doctor, because I was reading these Medscape surveys that they give to doctors every year. And it was something like, that year, I think 50% of doctors said that if they could do it over again, they would choose a different career entirely. And I was like, I don't like those odds. And so I pivoted to healthcare management and got an MBA, and then still wasn't satisfied, because I just kind of moved slightly adjacent. And yeah, it's
lateral
just
step.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is I felt I was basically working 2 jobs for 2 years. So it was pretty exhausting sometimes, but I was never exhausted from the work that I was doing in tabletop, because it's always enjoyable for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to ask, have you learned to parlay any of your skills that you learned from your old life into this new path that you're on?
Yeah, I think about that. I think about that a lot, and I actually think that D&D helped me in that field too, because as cheesy as it sounds, being a dungeon master sometimes is like being a manager. You've got groups of different backgrounds and ages, and you're trying to motivate them to do a task and explain things clearly. And
I've been a manager. Sometimes being a dungeon master is harder.
yeah, for real, yeah. Then there's some overlap, but I think that the just sort of the aspects of learning how to talk to people, advocating for yourself and others. Some of the project management experience definitely helps. I've led a few TTRPG projects at this point, and staying organized and things like that. They've definitely lended well to TTRPGs. Now, writing, I never did hardly any writing other than emails at my work, so that was all new territory for me.
I mean, I've started attempting to do the writing bit, and that is daunting. It's you and that blinking cursor.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel that with my entire chest.
Yeah.
So you came into this with like a 5-year plan, and life kind of yeeted this much further along than you intended. I mean, do you ever like take a minute to stop and just see where you are in the community and just see the impact that you've made? Because like the way I see it, everybody knows you, man. Like you've played with the best of the best. You've been in some really dope games, and you've been involved with a lot of insanely fun projects. Like, you ever just kind of go, how did I get here this fast?
Yeah, I do. I think sometimes that's where that imposter syndrome and that desire to prove myself kind of comes back. Sometimes it can feel like in the industry, like you're only as good as your most recent project and what you're working on. So there's that desire to always be putting out something new, always be putting out something different. But yeah, there was definitely a moment, I'd say at the end of this year, where I was sitting and writing down some New Year's resolutions and things, and thinking, wow, there are some things I knocked off this list that weren't on this year's list, weren't on next year's list, and it is pretty wild. And I'm very grateful for how lucky I've gotten in some respects, and how some of the the hours that I've put in. Sitting and watching that blinking cursor at 1 a.m., knowing I got to get up and drive into work in like 6 hours. I'm glad that work has paid off, because I know that there are people out there who are working now who it hasn't hit yet. And I feel for them.
Yeah. My last day at my day job was on Wednesday of this week.
Nice.
So I have just taken the plunge and I'm in free fall mode right now.
How do you feel?
I feel a little anxious, but excited for what's coming up in the future.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a lot. I wasn't expecting it to happen as soon as it did either, because I've been streaming for less than about a year actually, a little over a year now.
Yeah.
I've been at this, and we started the channel back in April. Started running the channel back in June, and so this is me now. This is me, and freelance graphic design is me now. But,
yeah, congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for the next little bit, but I've got a good partner, and I've got some bright prospects coming up.
And I'll say that the community is so supportive and uplifting a lot of the time. I think just the idea of it had dawned on me that I'd never really actively supported or been aware of as many charities before I came into this space.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
See, also, like you, before this, I was in a field that was like stable-ish and secure. I was in education. I worked as support staff for a university, so I'd assist teachers and that sort of thing. But like, taking that leap from something that is comfortable but a little too comfortable and safe into something new is so scary. It is terrifying. But once you get there, I think it's going to be good. I'm excited. But yeah, again, this community is amazing for this. Like, I wouldn't have been able to do it without the community and without the push from people that, like, I genuinely care about to go this far.
Yeah. Yeah, the community is very supportive, especially in just people following their heart. Now, my parents have come around. Nowadays, my mom, she's so close to retirement. She's looking back, and she says, she's like, do what you want to do. And I'm like, thanks, Mom. I appreciate that.
So what's it like trying to explain to your parents now, like, what you do? Because
they have no idea. They have no idea. My family doesn't understand. I start with, okay, I make box sets, and they're like, oh, okay, I know what a box set is. I'm like, for official adventures, they're like, okay, official. And I'm like, for Dungeons and Dragons, they're like, you've lost me. They have actually, I've gotten most of my family to play D&D, I think like 3 times. And my dad was like 61 or 62 at the time. And he played this barbarian. And we were all sitting around the table. And my dad's barbarian's name was Conan. And there, I mean, he's 70s and 80s, and he loves Arnold, and so he rolled this nat 20 to knock down this door, and I narrated what happened, like, you force open these stone doors, they come crashing down from your might. And my dad got so excited that he stood up and was just like, like in our small house up in Tennessee. And that's like probably my favorite moment ever playing the game. So I think they sort of understand it. And afterwards they were like, can we play again? Like, before you leave? I'm like, I leave in like 3 days. They're like, can we play tomorrow? I was like, I guess so. Let me go write. And
there's nothing like a good nat 20 to get you addicted.
That is wholesome.
Yeah. And it's I'm grateful that they sat and played with me, because it's so hard to get my family members to play a game that's not like we'll play board game nights occasionally when I go up there, but we always play something like Heads Up, or something like I don't know, Scattergories, something that's kind of
something trivia and cooperative sort of thing.
Yeah, something you can like, because once they all start drinking, there's only so long that you can retain their attention. And so when you're explaining like D&D, it's you can get lost pretty quick.
Yeah, there's some crunch there that is very difficult to do when not sober.
Yeah.
Oh man, so, you briefly mentioned like the number of charities that are getting support from the TTRPG community, and that's something that has been brought to my mind. I'm starting to do more. I've started to do more independent streaming myself, and I'm seeing all these charities. And I do have to say, one of the things I do love about this community is just that their support for everything from pets needing support to people needing support to education reform, political the political charities as well. Mm-hmm. It's every aspect of life is covered. So I do appreciate that from this space. I have to ask, what's it like working at Beetle and Grimm's? Like
it's pretty cool. So this is my first time working remote ever really in my life. I worked for a long time in the restaurant industry and then as research assistants and stuff like that. So I'm so used to driving into work that it was very strange on my first day when I was like, my commute is from this bedroom to my little office space over there. And it's cool. They're based out in California, around LA. And yeah, I'm out here in Central Texas. So I'm very kind of like task oriented. So I have a Trello board of things that I do throughout the week. However, the time that I get them accomplished, when I get them, how much time I spend on each one, it's autonomous, which is nice. Okay. Because then I can rearrange things however I need to. It's also really nice because I've been trying to cook more Persian food, and most of the dishes, they have just some periods of waiting that can be 2-3 hours, and that's hard to do when you're at work for 8 hours a day. If you come home and start that dish, you're not going to eat until like 10 p.m. So that's something that I also really enjoy about this setup. I'm hoping that conventions will open up and the pandemic will end sometime this year.
Yes, please.
Because, I'm also in charge of those. It was funny. They actually put me in charge of them after GameholeCon 2019. So they're like, there's a bunch of conventions we want to attend in 2020. How about you get these things set up? And I was telling Matt Lillard, I was like, okay, here's your stuff for your flight. You need to be here at this time and be on the plane with Bill and all that stuff. He's like, this convention is not for 3 months. He's like, I didn't do this much planning for my own honeymoon. You are planning way too much in advance. I'm like, these are flights, Matt. These are important to have times for in advance. And then everything just stopped.
Yeah, the world hit the record scratch. So that's gotta be wild. Like once conventions come back, obviously, like having to plan for them in like that far ahead and having to do that much traveling. I would ask you about the experience, but of course the world has turned upside down.
Yeah.
Now I've got that Hamilton song stuck in my head. But are you afraid of convention burnout, or like are you afraid of the joy being taken out of conventions as they will be work for you now?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I've worked 2 conventions for them now. When I worked at Gen Con the first time, I was working only like half the convention. Okay. I think at that one it was noticeable to have that 4 hours or 5 hours of exhibit hall time cut out, because it's hard to get across that exhibit hall and see everything. However, I think what I learned when working Gen Con at the same time as attending it was do schedule less events. Now that's something I have to learn every Gen Con because I always schedule a ton of events, and then I'm wondering, why did I do this fun run? I'm up at like 6 a.m. when I'm never awake, about to run a 5K, and I hate myself.
What do you mean my panel?
Um,
This panel is at 8:30, and my hotel is like an hour and a half with traffic away.
yeah, it's basically that,
Oh,
and the people that run these events, they don't get paid if you don't bring them the ticket that you got. So I'm like, oh my gosh, those people have to get paid. They're doing this thing super early. Um, but I, even when I worked at Gamehole Con, I love it. I love people coming to the booth and asking questions. I love hearing about people's games, how they used something, hearing someone say that they ran something that I wrote for one of the boxes, getting to watch Matt do Shaggy voices for kids and stuff. And I think that in some ways it can be kind of tethering to be at a booth for a majority of that day, but the nights are totally free and there's a lot of
the after hours
socializing and
events are fun.
networking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
that's where I did most of my networking was after the con at the bars.
yeah, and I actually don't drink, so it's
Yeah.
totally new scene for me. When we were at the Alex Kemmer's restaurant that has the game hole above it. I can't remember what it's called. But I remember walking by and seeing Ashley Warren and James Introcaso in a room just chatting. I'm like, oh my gosh, those are like two celebrities. Like they're just over there talking. I'm like, I love those people. They don't even know who I am. And I like wave and I'm super awkward.
Yeah, I
But
crashed
yeah.
.con at Gen Con 2019. I didn't even know who Dot was, and now I'm in a game with her.
Oh no.
It's like, oh hey, like there's Eris, there's Goblin Katie, there's Dot. Like, okay, I think I'm in the
Yeah.
right place. I just randomly showed up because there's podcasting people.
Yeah, and there's so many different like facets of this industry that I think once you get in one, you learn they're smaller than they look
Yeah,
from
everybody
far
knows
away.
everybody.
Yeah. So I'm excited to get back to them because I feel like a lot of my growth in this industry has been like virtually. It was over 2020. And I feel like I know all these people that I've only ever seen on Zoom. I think, I've talked with Critical Bard so many times, and he was at the Wormwood booth back at Gen Con. I was like, I don't want to go bother him. I got to finish these talking with these customers. I'm like, I'll see him at the next con. And then 2 years
Yeah.
later,
Yep,
SpongeBob card.
sometime later.
Yeah, basically.
So I have to ask you, what is the most common question that you get at the Beetle and Grimm's booth? Like, what is the question that whenever people show up, they're asking you that you've answered a bajillion times?
I would say before this year, it was definitely, are you going to do Cursive Strahd? Are you going to do Cursive Strahd? Are you going to do Cursive Strahd? So now we've done Cursive Strahd. So I'm interested in what that next highest one is. Usually it's somebody who has a passion for a past campaign, that they have all these memories or they love that campaign, that they want to do it again. We'll get questions about like retro boxes, like, hey, do you want to do Age of Worms or Tomb of Horrors or something? And then we get things like, will you all ever do your own content? Which is nice for me to hear, as a writer. It's like that would be very cool to do. And I know it's something that we all as a company want to do is write more things and have that ownership over them. But yeah, it's usually boxes. People want their adventure in a box. And then after that, it's like,
They're very nice boxes, though. Let's be honest. Some of the stuff that
Yeah.
you get in those are just like,
So for the uninitiated, can we let's really get into like what these boxes are
yeah,
for
yeah,
those
yeah.
who might not be aware.
Here, give me
So-
1 second. I'll go grab one.
Oh, nice! You got
they're
a
right
little
over
bit of
there.
a show and tell.
Yeah, 1 second.
No problem.
also, Sphinx Roll. It's your birthday? Happy birthday, Ryan!
Sphinx, it's your birthday, dude! Happy birthday! Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Yes, it is, as a matter of fact.
Okay. So this is one of the ones we recently did. And this was one that I was kind of on from start to finish, help with the concepting. And me and Matt basically led this box. So this is our legendary edition of Curse of Strahd, which I keep giving my overlords grief because our naming conventions keep changing. So we have silver, platinum, legendary, gold.
I would assume that legendary was the best one.
You would think, but platinum is still higher. I was like, yeah, we're confusing people. So they come with all kinds of things. It's basically the whole concept is to provide like everything you need to run kind of a more high-end game, but also really cut down on your prep because all of the founders are 5 people who are working full-time jobs who played for like 20 years, so they have a vested interest in making these easier. So usually come with something fun. So there are these finger puppets in this one that are for the Blinsky dolls in the adventure, which are like these toys you can find throughout Curse of Strahd.
Maverick says that they have a plan regarding naming, but they don't know what that is yet.
They have a plan. Oh, hi, Maverick. Maverick is usually in our streams and has won so many giveaways. Maverick stepped out of the giveaway last night.
Give me some of that luck, Maverick.
Right. So we always include maps, custom maps. We get them commissioned. So for Curse of Strahd, originally, the map of the castle is isometric, so it's like it's very pretty, but you can't really use it at your table because you have to redraw the map because there's no minis that can play on an isometric map. So we include this map tube, and in it we commissioned maps of all of Castle Ravenloft. I think it comes out to like
sick.
Yeah, it's like 20 something maps or something like that. And there's a brochure for how they work together. We do different like in-world handouts and stuff, which are, stained and burned. And we basically tell our printing press people to just handle everything super rough.
Be as mean to this as you can.
Yeah. For Saltmarsh, we were like, we really want to get something waterlogged. So what can you do? And they're like, we can do this, and we can tear the edge, and we can grovel it. And we're like, yeah, do more of that.
As someone who works in print, my heart just broke a little while working in
right.
print.
That's how they were at first. So this one comes with like a cool folder that has like Strahd's face on it. And in there are a bunch of like player-sized maps that you can give out when you get to like the town of Vallaki or stuff. And then this is like a brochure for how to put together all of the different maps of
that's
Ravenloft.
Nice. Because that was going to be my own worry that I didn't mention in my head because I'm like, I'm powerful dumb. So trying to put that all together might be a little much.
Oh, I feel you. I think the biggest floor of the castle takes up something like, it's definitely bigger than my table. But then we have like physical props, which have always been my favorite. So we have this little bag with the Ravenloft crest on it, and inside there are these coins, because in Barovia you can get coins with the bearing the visage of Strahd on them, and so
nice.
They're metal coins. We commissioned the artwork of Strahd's face, if it will zoom. It wants my thumb for some reason.
That's beautiful.
There we go. Sort of. Well.
Okay.
Oh well. And then on the back is the Ravenloft crest. So it's cool. We have all kinds of cool things in here. We have encounter cards that, like, on the front they'll have a picture of the monster, and then on the back they have statistics. So that what you can do is drop them on the DM screen and show your players while you're looking at the stuff that you kind of need to see without thumbing through the book. This one comes with like little wax seals and paper for cool Strahd smack talk to your players.
So what I'm noticing about this, which is really wild, it looks as though this can work in tandem with the box that Wizards just came out with. Like it feels like there are holes in that box had that this one fills.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's really slick, and I like that. It's just like, if you want the ultimate Curse of Strahd experience, if you want to just be mad extra,
yeah.
then this is the way to run that, which is really cool.
And we're usually, with our bigger boxes, we're usually limited print runs. So a lot of collectors will buy the boxes, or interested in them, because they're platinums. Up to this point, we only print 1,000 copies of them, and they're numbered. So you get to say, I have box number 5 of 1,000. And people will ask us, is there any way to get a specific number? We do provide stuff like the Taroka deck, but ours is like a more jumbo-sized one. And then there's all the handouts, some handouts we've made, like a poster for the Festival of the Blazing Sun, and just a lot of cool stuff.
You sold me with the campaign coin. That's just a very nice detail, and it's nice to be able to give your player something tactile to hold on to.
Yeah, we use them for inspiration. Exactly. Yeah, that's what we use our Waterdeep Dragon Heist coin.
That's wild clever. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah.
This is making me really miss IRL games, right?
Yeah.
You're telling me.
Yeah. Essentially, when we ran Waterdeep Dragon Heist, there were collapsible tavern shot glasses for the Troll Skull Tavern, so that if your players built the tavern out, you could actually toast when you open it. And I gave them out to them, and they still all have them. So it's pretty cool stuff. But yeah, that's kind of like a little look at one of those. So we usually at the conventions, we have everything kind of splayed across a table so that people can feel the paper that we put the maps on is partially canvas. So it's got a nice texture to it. And
that's kind of one thing that you think might change when you come to conventions in the future, especially when you've got this as like COVID as a vector. You want to minimize touching. Yeah. But at the same time,
for sure.
People are very tactile when they see the product. They want to be able to touch it, right?
Yeah, and we were really careful even when this was all starting. We pulled out of GaryCon pretty early on because we were like, this is, both Bill and I work in healthcare. We're like, this looks like it's serious. We don't want to contribute to that. But we definitely sympathize with these conventions, because it must be hard to run and make money off a convention and then suddenly have to close it due to a state of emergency in Wisconsin.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see when conventions come back, exactly how they'll come back, especially from a booth standpoint.
Yeah, because there's always going to be that overlap, I'm sure, whenever they start, of safety and distancing, and I'm sure sanitizing stations will be all over the place.
Yeah, recently I think Gen Con came out with their survey for exhibitors and people who are running events, and they actually asked questions about what would it take for you to feel safe at this convention. And I filled it out because I'm planning on potentially we'll host Morning Ritual at Gen Con.
Yeah.
Book it as an event.
Gen Con is that one that we're not sure if it's going to happen. It's right on the cusp there. I know that Google was predicting something like June or July way back through their analytics that would be kind of the tail end. I think PAX Unplugged will definitely be one. But
yeah. That's the convention that I missed last year, and I'm so upset. Everybody was at PAX Unplugged, and I had my ticket, I had my plane ticket, but my job wouldn't let me off.
Oh no! I'm so sorry to hear that.
It's okay. I left that job since then. I'm still salty about it.
The reason for leaving. You didn't let me go to a convention. Write that in there.
You cost me PAX Con. PAX Unplugged, you sons of bitches.
Right. You didn't know how important this convention was going to be.
Oh my God. Again, I thought, well, I'll just go next year. And I think that the one positive out of all this horrific nonsense is that it's kind of showing us to shoot your shot because
Yeah.
you're not promised anything.
Right.
Really.
You really never know how long something is going to last. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's been hard for me too, is saying no sometimes when you're like at your limit. Is so difficult. I'm even though I say I'm a like a writer, I'm not a very fast writer. I spend a lot of time thinking about my words. I don't want to know my hourly rate that I have imposed on myself, but I enjoy it. But when this year came up, I had a few people reaching out to me about projects that I really have wanted to work with in the past, but it's very different now, being full time, because I really have to be judicious about what all I take on. Not only because sometimes there might be a conflict of interest between my work and another company, but because I never know how our own projects will fall on certain weeks, and it's better to turn it down than give work that I'm not proud of, especially for a company or someone that I really respect.
I mean, and all love to the community and to this industry, but it is tumultuous. Things just shift at a moment's notice, and if you're bogged down with projects that you don't put your heart into, then you can't really react as quickly as you might like. So that's definitely something that I'm and that's a lesson that I'm learning as well. So I absolutely see that.
Yeah, I think what I've started doing is I have a book that I keep a lot of ideas and Google Docs and all this stuff. And lately, these were all going to be things that I was hoping to put on the DMs Guild, but I don't have the bandwidth anymore to coordinate all the different parts of getting a project onto the DMs Guild. I can do the writing, but finding art, sourcing art, getting someone to edit it, getting someone to lay it out, posting it, then all of the marketing that you have to do on top of it. It's so much easier now for me to take an idea that I'm really passionate about and put it into something like Arcadia, where somebody's like, hey, will you give me a pitch? Well, I know that the pitch I'm going to give it's something I'm proud of. And I think that passion comes through in the actual pitch, because they accepted it. And when the next issue comes out, I'll have an article in there.
Nice.
That's really, really cool. So I have to ask you, when you're designing things, when you're doing your game designing, do you always start from scratch, or do you play any homebrew games, or you're just like, well, this is something that I've used in a homebrew and I think people would like it?
Yeah, I will sometimes experiment in my home game is kind of like a playtesting zone sometimes, for minor rules. Like it's harder to playtest adventure. I find myself running official adventures most of the time just because I'm like a classic over prepper when it comes to campaigns. And if I have nothing else going on, I will just prepare all week long, and I will just make it this seamless. I know what's going to start. I know what, at this point, what I'll say. Of course, players will do things that are unexpected. But, I'll make props and stuff. But now that time has been filled with writing instead of campaign prep. So it's a lot easier for me to run something official that kind of has a loose framework that I can be aware of. This is coming up. And, now I have boxes. So it's a lot easier to be able to present something that would normally have taken me forever to make a prop comparable to those coins. I'd have to make them out of styrofoam or something. But I do. I will put some of that homebrew stuff into my products, and or some of the bonus encounters along the way, or something that one of my characters at the table will inspire me, or I've written their characters into some of my supplements. A couple of characters lost their soul in a 20 level campaign we did like 3 years ago, and so if you go and read the quotations in Devil's Advocate, like 3 of them are from characters at our game, and it's their perspective on the loss of a soul, because the barbarian, when he was soulless, he was like, well, now I have nothing to lose. what more can I give? I'm going to be this kind of unforgiving, immovable object now. And the other character's like, woe is me. I need to squeeze all the light I need out of life now that it's got a timer. So it's pretty cool.
Okay, that's really badass. Going back to the Curse of Strahd box that you showed, I believe you said that's the one that you helped with from beginning to end.
Yeah.
So, like, what specifically in that box, like, did you have your hands on in terms of like design, or like, I just kind of want to see, like, you know, where you're at in that process.
Yeah, so early on, Matt and I read through all of the adventure and just would regurgitate ideas, basically. And then there's usually a big meeting that all of us get together and present our ideas for different chapters and say, what do you think about this? How do you think this aspect would be cool? Knowing that what the community has said in our past surveys, how can we bring some of that into this one? We had one of those meetings a few weeks ago for something that, you know, will be announced later on, which is I'm very excited for as well. But for Curse of Strahd, I'm always involved in the bonus encounters. I write 2 of them, and John writes the other 2. John Ciccolini, he's one of the founders. I edit basically any text throughout the box and proofread. The ones that I write, somebody else edits, obviously. The choice of artifacts, so the holy symbol of Ravenkind and the coins with Strahd's face, that was something Matt and I talked about. If you own the box and you run one of the bonus encounters, there's one set in a church in Barovia where you're surrounded by werewolves who are trying to get in, and you find these coins in like the alms box. And you can melt them down and silver a weapon by dipping it in and code it to fight the werewolves, which is really cool that they let me do that, because Wizards reviews all of our bonus encounters and says, no, you can't do this, or yeah, go ahead. And so for Ben Petrosor over there to allow me to have rules for silvering a weapon by dipping it in there for a few hours was really cool for me. The choice of maps was a huge point of discussion because for a while we played with the idea of just providing certain rooms where you're likely to fight Strahd. But because Strahd is so present throughout that entire castle, I mean, it's his home, we decided to do all of them. And I would hammer that throughout every meeting. I'm like, we can't not do the whole castle. We have to do the whole castle. They're like, it can't be done. It would be so many maps. And we're like, we have to do the whole castle.
And it ended up being so many maps.
Yes, so it was both. It was so many maps. But, you know, people love it. I've read so many reviews. Even people who don't like the box will give credit to the maps. They'll be like, this box, blah, 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 overrated, yada, yada. But the maps, I gotta say, that's the redeeming quality.
So what are the differences between like the gold, legendary, platinum?
We don't know. Really, it's the quality stays the same. It's just the amount of stuff that you can put in it to get to that price point changes. With the platinum, we can include stuff like Infernal War Machines that have custom fronts done by WizKids. For Avernus, we have like a prop Infernal contract, which is like on these individual copper or brass plates, like the one that was at D&D Live 2019. But in reality, it's just there's no set limit really between them. It's basically just the price at which it happens. Like for the Silver Salt Marsh, that was our first Silver edition. That one had more handouts, a little less maps, and only a few props. But you still got the book, you still got the same quality and everything, and exciting things in it.
These come with the campaign book as well?
Yep, they all come with the campaign book, and
I don't know why, but I imagined like the book would be sold separately or something.
Yeah, no, it'd be a hard ask to be like, hey, do you want to give us $400? But you got to go buy the book. So yeah, we include the book, and then we break it out into sections. So that way you can just grab the ones that you need. So for Waterdeep, for example, there's the Enchiridion in the back, which is like, here's your guide to the city. Well, instead of telling your players, read from this page to this page, and please don't peek on the other side, you can just take that book out and say, here, y'all, why don't, while you're making your characters, look over this information, and nothing's spoiled.
I mean, the wonderful thing is once you finish the campaign, you still have all the maps. So you have Ravenloft, ready to go, whatever. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and that's something we think about too when we're choosing the maps. Like we choose battle maps for places that you're likely to fight. But at the same time, some of the maps that we make, they're usually pretty, unless it's like a peak moment in the campaign that you have to have that moment. A lot of them can be reused. So we did the map for Old Bone Grinder, which is the windmill in Chapter 4. And anytime you need a windmill, as long as you're okay with it being a little bit gothic, you can lay that on the table and you have like a 4-story windmill.
Oh yeah, that's sick.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And it's kind of funny because I just got done with that section of Curse of Strahd.
Very cool, very cool. We actually made a deed for the windmill. So if you clear it out and you get the deed, you can make it a stronghold, and you can like write your name in it and everything. And it's pretty cool.
That's really cool. So I know you said you've been asked this question. I'm gonna ask it again anyway. Has there been any discussion or any thought of creating your own adventures? Has that been a topic Beetle and Grimm has touched on at all?
Yeah, it's something that we talk about periodically. There's so much on our plate for this year. I'm very excited. It is a good time for them to hire someone. Even if it wasn't me, I don't know. It would be a very challenging year if they didn't have an extra set of hands to take on some of these things. But I know that creating content is something that we all very much want to do. We talk about what that might look like, when that could happen. And I think you see us branching out a little bit as our projects go on. We just did the Paizo Kickstarter for Character Chronicles. So we've started to move to things for players and with another company that isn't D&D, because the reality is there's a lot of tabletop RPGs out there.
Yeah.
I think on Roll20's data, Cthulhu was the second highest or something. So there's, we're talking about ways to branch out that way. And then if we offer something, how can it be different? How can it be something that excites people? And how can we make the box for it super dope? Because that'll be the end goal. That's one cool thing that when we do original content, it's going to be it'll be a physical thing.
I gotta tell you, just in discussing what Beetle and Grimm's does, like I had an idea, but discussing this with you has made it a lot clearer what the boxes are, and it's bringing a world to life in a way that I think is really cool and dope. And now I'm just gonna fanboy out and maybe throw an idea out there, and if it sticks,
let's do it.
I would love a Beetle and Grimm's legendary Exandria box. I think that would be fucking sick. If you just bring Loudmouth and Exandria to life, with an adventure from Mr. Mercer, I would pay $600-$700 for that.
Okay. I will let my overlords know. I'm not gonna lie, I think that would be a cool box too.
That would be the sickest goddamn box. I'm trying to like stay slightly professional still, but it's like also give it to me.
Yeah.
Put it in my hand, please.
It's Critical Role has like done so much for this game and this hobby, and I know.
I just want to see how you all bring that to life.
Yeah.
Just seeing the goddamn it, Kelsey. Just see. I just did a bingo thing. Just
Oh
see
no.
how you all brought Curse of Strahd to life. I was seeing what you could do with a world that I'm already so invested in, and that
Yeah.
there's already so many different artistic renditions of that would be insanely sick.
You know, and that's one of the cool things too. That was one really special thing about doing Curse of Strahd was the box had already been out, or the adventure had been out for years when we decided to do that box. People still wanted it, but we got to read people's experiences. We got to read what they thought about certain parts. One of the bonus encounters I wrote, I should spoiler tag. Maybe I shouldn't say this. There's something in the adventure that is missing that Chris Perkins has commented on and said, we intentionally did not put this in here. That is your story to tell as the DM. However, a lot of people struggle with that, and I wanted to provide an original way of getting that missing thing. So one of the bonus encounters is all about the pursuit of that missing thing. That's one of the cool things about, that would be cool about something like a Wildmount box would be, people have already started telling stories in that campaign setting.
Yeah.
I mean, people are telling stories on it every Thursday night, and it would be really cool to see some of that stuff immortalized in physical pieces. So I will relay that, but I think they probably already know.
Yeah, I'm not so vain as to think I'm the first guy to think a Beetle and Grimm's Exandria boxes. It has to happen at some point, please.
The passion though, I mean, we love that. We love hearing what people want to see, and the excitement that you have for that box is why I love going to conventions. It's why, I mean, because when people do that about our boxes or about an adventure, it makes me so happy because this game changes people's lives.
It does.
I'm not even gonna pretend that I'm not low key on the Beetle and Grimm site right now. Just adjusting my budget to get some of these.
We do have 20% off Eberron if you are looking for another campaign setting.
Normally I don't fuck with Eberron, but you know what? I just might. I just might. So this might be a damning question, and if you can't answer it, that's fine. But
okay.
What is your favorite box?
What is my favorite box? That's a good question. I think my internal hipster nature wants me to not say Curse of Strahd because so many people like Curse of Strahd that I wanna be like, Curse of Strahd's so mainstream or something. But
I think I'm like, I totally am a hipster, so I'll just embrace it. I mean, I'm wearing a Coffee or Death shirt, for God's sakes. I don't like Curse of Strahd that much. Like, I get why it's popular, but like,
It's very well structured, and that's something I've had to begrudgingly accept. As I found I think what always for me about that adventure was I didn't know if I wanted to be in Halloween Land for an entire year. I love Halloween, but do I really want to be squashing pumpkins in the dead of summer and fighting vampire bats and stuff in February? I'm not sure. I think that even though I don't run my campaign in Eberron, the Eberron box might be my favorite. That's the first box that I contributed to at Beetle and Grimm's in a more meaningful way. It's the first one I wrote bonus encounters for, and it's our first setting box. So when that adventure at the end of the campaign goes for just level 1, John and I got to write 4 adventures that take you through level 2, through level 3, through level 4. And all of the maps are so general because it's a campaign setting, not an adventure. There's no certain place, but there's one for like a train in there, which if you do a murder mystery on a train or you have a train in your home setting, it's a great map to have.
Murder on the Everon Express.
Murder on the Everon. Yep. I mean, the Skyship, the jungle, there's a jungle map that has like a trail going through it, that there's a chase scene in one of the bonus encounters. So there's just a lot in there. And I mean, that was the first box we started putting some foam in. So it's just all neatly packaged in there. And It's
I
cool.
mean, well, that answers my question of do you guys do boxes for campaign settings and not just campaign adventures? So
Yeah.
that just means that we're one step closer to Exandria. So
And the setting boxes, they can be challenging sometimes because there's that kind of open book of what are we going to put in this box will not just get mileage for the next year, but if someone stays in this for 2 years, will they get to use everything?
Okay. So what is your favorite adventure, like pre-made adventure?
It's a good question.
And do you have a box for it?
And do we have a box for it? My first campaign that I did was like from start to finish was Storm King's Thunder. So I think that might be. I don't know if I can't undo the nostalgia from it of finishing that for the first time with these people that I care about. So I think that one is my favorite 5e adventure to date. I like the runes. Everybody loves runes, right? I love giants as a monster just because of their size. It's something that you have to be very conscious about to convey to players, and the reality that you might not be as tall as someone else's kneecap is so money. It's and that adventure has so much freedom for the player, but kind of within a box. There's a chapter in there where you can just go like anywhere in the Faerun, which can be really challenging. But the decisions that characters make in that adventure, they impact. I mean, I think there's like 4 or 5 chapters that you only do one of them, depending on what the characters choose. And I think that's super cool. And
very
it's a gamble as a designer. Yeah. And that's cool because there's something special for a player about wondering, what if I hadn't done this? And I think that's like, it's beautiful. It's like, you don't get to know. I could tell you, but you told this story and somebody else told a different one. It's cool.
Question from the chat, actually. Kaleidoscopes. Kayla wants to know, what campaign setting do you want to see that hasn't been touched on in a while?
Ooh, that's interesting. What campaign set? Like, which one would I want to see? Like D&D do?
I think so. I think that might be a broad version of it.
So I wasn't. I was born in 1993. I didn't get to experience Spelljammer, but I hear awesome stuff about it.
Yeah,
I was gonna go Spelljammer. That was my go-to answer.
Let's fucking go. Sorry.
Science fantasy is so cool. I love mind flayers and beholders and the Gith, and that hippopotamus, the Gith monster in Mordenkainen's. That all the way.
I was gonna say Spelljammer or Planescape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fucking Dragonlance, it's time. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what they end up doing over the next few years.
Yeah. I mean, there's still so much for 5th edition to touch on that. It's kind of like, let's get it together, people.
Yeah.
Is there a Lost Minds box? Because that is my favorite adventure.
Lost Minds. Oh, and that is a great adventure too. I think a lot of people leave that one out when they think about what's your favorite adventure. You think of the book, but yeah, so many campaigns get their start in that box.
That was my start in 5th edition. That was my hello, stop. This isn't 3.5 anymore.
Yeah. There's a great Reddit post somebody did on running the Green Dragon in that adventure that changed the way that I see dragons. They made them very cunning and talked about different ways that dragon would get in the character's face and tease them and frighten them. And I threw all my notes out the window on this dragon in there. I was like, I need to take notes from this person. But
I'm glad I'm not the only one that's kind of jacking Reddit every now and then, because there's some gold on there sometimes.
There is. I used to frequent our D&D behind the screen for a long time, and I would do posts on there before I started writing. So I think I was writing before I knew I was writing, probably. because
that's actually common. We hear that a lot from people that do game design and writing. That that particular subreddit is very good soil for up and coming designers.
Yeah, and the mods over there, they're great. They organize a lot of really cool like subreddit wide projects like the Atlas. Before there was really stuff on planes. Other than those like 2 paragraphs in the Dungeon Master's Guide, I would go there and read about the planes, and I didn't even know there were quasi planes, but there are like planes of salt and lightning and stuff like that, which are
plane of
super
steam,
cool.
Plane of salt, plane of ash.
Yeah.
We get it. Your cat's salt, a star.
Plane of fat, plane of acid, plane of heat.
Yeah. Yes, we know. She's magic, and she's laying out in the hallway now and being very dejected because she's no longer on my lap.
No.
All right, so I told you we have only one structured part of the show. I lied. There's another thing that I have to ask, and after this, I think that's a good time to go on break. Give us a good 10, 15.
That's perfect.
All right. So there is currently a war happening in the TTRPG community. There are 2 sides. There are people that feel that it is appropriate to crunch dice, which is to put dice in your mouth and to chew them. These people are called Crunch Crew. I know there is another side of this war, which is Stop the Crunch. We believe that dice are for rolling, not for chewing. The other side called dice forbidden candies. We call them choking hazards. So we need to know what side of this war are you, Justice? I'll have you know that for the second season, I have asked every guest. Brittany Lee Mulligan was a coward and chose crunch responsibly.
So candy dice. You can use candy dice. These things exist.
Let's see. B. Dave was on the side of stop the crunch. Quiddy, who works for a dice company, we found out was a warmonger and is funding the crunch.
I love
not just funding, but weaponizing the crunch.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I believe Aria even went so far as to say that she wants to make scented dice to make it even more appealing.
Or gummy dice or something.
Yeah. Glossing Gadgets is on the stop the crunch side. So we've got people from all over the spectrum. So we need to know what side is Justice Arman on.
You know, one of my favorite characters is Mordenkainen. Because he plays this neutral mage in this plane-spanning war, and Mordenkainen is all about tipping his finger on the scale to keep them even at times. So I think I'd like to be there. I want to be directly in the middle. I never know. Is today going to be the day that I crunch a die? Maybe if Stop the Crunch is getting too powerful, maybe I crunch a die that day. And if the reverse is true, when those scented dice come out, you better believe I'll be putting my finger on the scale on the side, and I will say, stop that crunch.
Justice is on the side of chaos.
It's about maintaining order here.
This is a lawful neutral side.
Yes, precisely. Me and the Modrons will be watching the dice war very carefully.
You cowards! You finally believe in you.
Thank you. Finally, I feel justified in my view of crunch neutrality.
There is no crunch neutrality. You're either with us or against us.
We're the third faction, the one that's going to come out with a cult that's only semi-related to either side.
This is cowardice.
This is really said. Switzerland.
Hey, TPK, thank you for joining us. We've just figured out that Justice Arman is on the side of crotch chaos and won't choose a side. I've been disappointed thrice now this season.
There are dozens of us.
Dozens.
Dozens.
Both people on the show today refuse to pick a side in this war.
Listen, when the Call Crotch War started, I was on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
I sat and munched popcorn.
When the Crotch War starts, I want you to know, if you're not helping us take down Crotchers, then Stop the Crotchers are going to have to take you down. I'm just going to say
that only Sith deal in absolutes.
Who here said that Stop the Crotch was Jedi? I never said we were the good guys.
Interesting.
We're going to save your teeth, whether you want us to or not. You know what? If we are making this like a Star Wars thing, Abria is definitely the Emperor.
It's true.
Okay.
She was on the show talking about how to get more people to eat dice. It's disgusting.
Yeah, there was the talk of if I cannot put scent in the resin because it'll wear off too fast, you best believe that I'm going to try and put it in the ink on the letters because that way it'll last longer.
Oh wow, that is devious.
Next thing
I keep thinking about the macaroni dice, like the resin pasta dice.
The pork and beans dice as well.
Oh yeah, the pork and beans one. Oh.
The bean dice.
Have you seen the bone die that's made like from bones?
Yeah,
like
there's bones.
Yeah. It's like that's a die that will not come in my house. You get a haunted game table.
You know that's cursed.
But what if it always rolls a 20?
Are you willing to take that?
Then I gotta have that dice.
You have just entered into a pact with Asmodeus. Congratulations.
Could you? This is a little sick, but like the bones of Will Wheaton would always roll a 1.
That is cursed. That is a cursed thought.
Cursed thought.
I hope he's well. So with that, we're going to go on our break. We'll see you all in 10 minutes. We'll be back with more Justice Arman and the That Guy segment. So we'll see what douchebags you've encountered.
See you soon. And we're back.
Yo!
Welcome back. Hi, chat. It's good to see you all again. Behind the scenes and on break, we were talking about more bone dice, and it seems like you were too.
So here's my layout, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you. I had nothing to do with it.
So cozy and yeah.
Freelance graphic designer. So if you need overlays, hey.
Hey, hire them.
Yeah.
Somebody. Chat, if you had the choice of instead of just being put in a hole when you die, wow, that's morbid, but rather being made dice, would you take that? I want to see what people think of this. I might start a new business.
We've got some people that would like to be trees when they die. Okay, now here's the question. Those trees, when you die, if one point it falls over, would you like the tree to be turned into dice? Because there's wood dice.
There are wooden dice. Very lightweight.
I've never played with wooden dice. I kind of want to.
I got Sam some for our anniversary a few years back, which is super cool to have a partner who wants dice for their anniversary, but they're super lightweight. It feels like I'm throwing clouds or something.
How did they roll is the question, though.
They rolled pretty well. I think the first roll was above 15, if I remember correctly.
Okay. You hear your partner wants dice for their anniversary. You think, well, that's gonna save me money. Not necessarily. I just realized how expensive dice can get. It's wild, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, this industry is growing.
Especially if they're wood dice.
Mm-hmm. I like them because they aren't loud.
What?
That's interesting. Yeah.
Don't think you got away with that. Don't think you got away with that joke. You didn't. Just one request: don't make me in a narrative dice. Weird simple dice. I hate those dice.
That's fair. That's fair. If my death tree gets cut down or falls over, I will haunt the shit out of whoever's at fault. What if it gets blown over in a windstorm? What then, Kelsey?
Think she's gonna haunt the wind.
My spirit.
Do you think Kelsey is not stubborn enough to haunt the wind?
That's fair.
Haunt
All right.
Thor.
So here we are on the second half, the dark roast. Let's get into the that guy section. So, for the uninitiated, that guy is a black hole of fun at your table. If you ever have the unfortunate experience of being at a TTRPG table and there's just one person that if they were yeeted into the sun, your enjoyment of the experience would increase exponentially. Unfortunately, you have the misfortune of playing with that guy. So from this segment, we have uncovered quite a bit of that, guys, from people that bite other people to gaslighters to people who railroad. People who railroad. And puppeteer your character. I love that look when I tell people about the biting. It never ceases.
You started at a 10.
You didn't just eat into it.
I'm sorry, was I supposed to go slow? No, we start with the biter.
Poor Seppi.
But anyway, so we've kind of seen it all, but it's still worth hearing about these experiences from everyone. So, Justice, I have to ask, do you have a that guy story? And don't worry, it doesn't have to be on the same level as a biter.
I have two potential. I'm gonna go with my first one. You can tell me if this one qualifies or not. If not, we can go with the second.
Absolutely.
First one, I would like to say the invisible guy. This is the guy that will cancel at the very last second every single time. The one that you put in a lot of work into their character, they're excited about their arc, you work it into the session. It's a session where it's all going to come together. They're tied in the backstory, and then they cancel. They cancel an hour before every time, and you have to readjust everything. And then they tell you the next week, I promise I'm going to be there. Let's get this done. This will be amazing. And then they do the same thing again. And you end up fooling me twice, and the third time, and the fourth time, and the fifth time. Eventually, this guy doesn't even exist. Maybe they sit next to the biter, but you'll never see them because they are invisible. They only exist in a text stream to tell you that they are not coming to your D&D game, and that you have to rebalance all of your encounters and refigure NPCs that were connected to them until you have to fill the seat.
How are you just now getting this guy? Like
I've had this guy.
Yeah.
and they never leave the group entirely. They stay in the group channel. They occasionally say something in from a joke maybe in the first session, but never fails. They will miss the session every time.
Yeah. That absolutely qualifies.
Maybe they don't come because they sit next to the biter Lynn.
That's
okay. Then that is my guy.
Going 2 seasons
without this guy,
without the invisible guy,
because we never
That's
saw
how
him.
Invisible he is.
There we go.
He had the biter, and that was one that I frankly didn't think that would make a list.
Man, I'm kind of curious about your second guy, if you don't mind me asking.
My second guy was going to be the player that has an animal companion, a familiar, casts the flock of familiar spells, and conjures animals. That has the zookeeper guy that just brings an onslaught of animals that you have to manage on the other side of the screen and does nothing to help you out. Just says, by the way, I'd like to summon 20. Yeah, I'd like to summon 20 wolves now and cast Flock of Familiars from this item that I asked you about 3 months ago, and you didn't quite understand that spell yet.
Oh my God. Yes, these are the worst things.
Remember, the DM has the statistics for these monsters.
Fuck whoever wrote that in the player's handbook.
That's a cursed sentence.
Whoever wrote that in the player's handbook, I want to fight you. You know what? It's
just
Liam
turn
O'Brien.
on your location. We want to talk.
It's Liam O'Brien, the continent of Australia, and whoever wrote that. It's on site for these three motherfuckers.
I remember a player telling me that very early in my career. They're like, I want to cast this, whatever spell. It says the DM has the statistics for these monsters. And I like looked up from my screen and I was like, wait, what are you doing? And they're like, I'm summoning something. I'm like, what are you summoning? It says I don't get to pick. It just says this or this, and you have the statistics. I'm like,
it's this. The same thing goes for Druid's Wild Shape.
Yes.
Because that sentence also applies to the Wild Shape. The DM will have statistics for these monsters.
Gosh.
I really want to know whoever wrote that sentence. That sentence has been the bane of my existence a few times. Oh God! And then they want each fucking creature to have their own initiative.
What do they look like?
Druid that summons a forest of animals and still has a bag of tricks.
Yes. Yes.
Oh Jesus Christ! I'm so mad. I'm mad by Friday.
So take whichever guy makes you angrier, and you may induct them into your monster manual. I do think the invisible one has invisibility, but remember, the zookeeper, you'll have to write 7 separate stat blocks to include that one in your book.
Oh my God! It's so upsetting. Both of them, like equally.
Both are equally cursed.
You know what makes the zookeeper even more upsetting is technically they're not doing anything wrong.
They're not.
So you can't be as furious as you are.
Yeah, and you know what? When somebody told me about the Flock of Familiar spell, I think that came out in a later book, and I didn't believe them when they told me about that. And I was upset that I was like, who wrote this? Why would you do this now when we know all the stuff familiars can do? And yeah, it lasts an hour. And it is not concentration. Oh, and remember, at higher levels, you can conjure an additional familiar for each slot level above second. So you could potentially, if you're high enough levels, summon like 7 familiars on top of the one that you have from your multi-classed Pact of the Chain 2-level dip or whatever.
This is so upsetting. This is so upsetting. I didn't know about the Flock of Familiar spells. I've never seen it. I'm reading it now.
Well, we should edit this part out so that we don't teach other people about this spell.
Oh my
Zookeeper is that guy that you have to blame the system for.
Yes.
This is Wizard's fault.
Maybe that's the guy. Maybe that guy is the one who wrote the DM.
That guy is the wizard. The wizard that is on the coast.
I mean, I feel like certain spells are written and the person that wrote it knew what they were doing.
Cheeky,
like,
yeah.
There's no way the person who wrote Counterspell didn't know what they were doing. There's no way whoever wrote Fireball did know what they were doing.
Right.
I mean, I can't count. I can't tell you how many campaigns have been ruined because of Fireball
or Counterspell.
You know what? Less so with Counterspell. Counterspell is a you cheeky fucker spell. Like it's annoying, but it's not game ruining to me.
Yeah.
But Fireball.
That's true. If you put a fireball in a room full of liquor,
Yeah. Yeah, that's how my campaign ended. That's exactly how my campaign ended. Oh,
I think the
God.
designers have said at one point, I don't remember if it was Jeremy Crawford, but someone said, "Oh, we know Fireball is technically overpowered, but it's so iconic that we want it to be like that." And so, yeah, it's just devastation.
It's so bad. It's so, and nobody really fully gets a grasp of how big Fireball is.
Yeah.
It's a fucking explosion. It's what's the 20-foot radius? Is that
I think so.
I'm pretty.
I think it's 30, maybe.
Oh my.
No, maybe no. I think you're right. It's 20 foot. I should know
It's
this.
20-foot radius. God damn.
Gosh,
Like
I was wrong. I have egg on my face.
No, you're good. Like every time like I can recall a spell detail like that, there's a part of me that's just like, and that's where calculus could have been.
Yeah, I think in the older editions, I was reading some blog article about how it used to have spell blowback. If you cast Fireball in a small enough room, you would have to do volume calculations, and it could. I think they said that if you cast it in the basement floor of Death House, it can basically fill up all of it because it's only a 5-foot high ceiling. So you can like implode everything while you're down there.
And yourself in the process.
You, definitely yourself in the process.
Like what sick fuck decided to give the class with the least amount of hit points this spell that could just eviscerate everybody? It's so wacky.
Wizards has an interesting way of... I don't know if it's balancing. I don't even know if it's balancing your class versus what your damage output is. Because rogues can get pretty broken too.
True. Barbarians are kind of the same way in the sense that they can just not die. Like I love.
It's all a little broken at sometimes.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm grateful that my players aren't more plugged into the industry than they are, because I remember when they got to ninth level spells. I have a player who's played in a lot of editions. Started with second edition, or way back when the game came out, and he was like, "I've never been at this level," and I was like, "Okay, well, which spell would you like? Because you're gonna go to Candlekeep, and that's where you'll get it." Yada yada yada. And he took I think Power Word Heal, and I was like, "You don't want Wish?" He's like, "No." I'm like, I probably shouldn't say that because he was the wild card of the group. And so yeah, he took that spell and was not troublesome, and I never had to sit and think how would Wish affect an entire game.
That's another spell that's just like it gets there.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, as a player, what do you prefer, martial characters or casters?
Casters, 100% casters.
And are you an arcane guy or a divine guy?
Arcane. I think I relate to. I'm 5'8", sort of got bullied when I was younger. I totally relate to the slightly frail wizard that just puts their head in a book and then learns something devastating like that. It's like, yeah, if I trip down a stairway, I might die, but I also have the power to blow up this entire house if you're not careful. So keep your distance and don't be mean to me, please. So wizards, I love wizards, and I have a barbarian character that I enjoy, but I find myself looking for options, and I like the creativity of some of the utility spells and stuff.
No,
Yeah.
I got you.
Bisexual gifted kid burnout, so sorcerer.
Okay, I love sorcerers.
This is new. Well, not really. I love paladins because to me they're the best of both worlds. Which is just like, I'm gonna fuck you up with this sword, but if I need to hit you with the abracadabra, I can. I am starting to fall in love with Blade Singers and Eldritch Knights. Eldritch
Yeah.
Knights especially. Like, I'm gonna hit you 3 times and then cast a counter spell at you. That feels so disrespectful.
The universal caster's word for nope.
What was that one build that you had where they were able to cast Eldritch Blast like 20 times?
Oh, okay. No, okay. So the Blade Singer has an ability where they can forego one of their attacks to do a cantrip. And the Eldritch Knight has an ability where they can, as a bonus action, just do an attack. And so it's a very weird way of, because the Eldritch Knight is more focused on martial attacks with a side of magic, and the Blade Singer is focused on magic with a side of attack. If you multi-class in both of them, you and your fighter, let's say you're a level 11 fighter, you get 3 attacks. You could forego each one of those attacks and do a cantrip instead. So that's 3 Eldritch Blasts at a minimum of level 11. So that's what, 3 bolts, 3, 6, 9. Then with the levels in Eldritch Knight, you can forego your bonus action to do another cantrip. So that's one more. That's one more.
And you action surge what? And you get like 3 more.
Yeah.
That's evil right there.
So you're on some real JoJo's Bizarre Adventure type.
We're on Reddit. Did you find this noir? Delete this VOD.
No, I actually came up with that because one of my players in one of my campaigns told me about the Blade Singer's ability to forego an attack for a cantrip, and I was like, I've played Eldritch Knights and they get something like that, so maybe you're reading it wrong. And then I read it and I'm like, oh my god. So if you mix them both, then that's, you can, in one turn, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24 bolts of Eldritch Blast in one turn.
I'm going to just turn this into an NPC bounty hunter named Barrage, and he's going to be the person who comes and hunts down familiars. Like, you cast Flock of Familiars.
That's the I think there's mess up your day move.
Yeah. That's BBEG right there.
You're about to have a real bad time.
And if you just, it gets real goofy because it just gets there. It really does.
I like it though. It's pretty cool.
But I mean, again, that's min-maxing kind of stuff. But I did come up with a character that specifically exists because I wanted to see somebody do that at least one time. Yeah. And that's probably why I'm not the greatest GM, because I just come up with shit. It's just like, let's see this happen. I just want it to exist, Lord.
That's like a card you hold until the end of the adventure, where you're standing in front of the villain, and then you just go into a Sherlock monologue as you explain how you can do this. Do it once, and then just drop your character sheet and walk away.
If they all hit, that's 24 D10 damage.
Oh my goodness. It's like worse than Meteor Swarm. I think that's like what, 20 D6 and 20, just 20 D6 of each.
And keep in mind that you can do this from 120 feet away.
Oh my god!
Never even see you coming. If you pick up the spell sniper feat, that doubles that range.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just fuck somebody up on the other side.
It's just the orbital railgun of a spell.
That's so inappropriate. Anyway, so my next question. Sorry. I'm just imagining this bad guy that's just like, you know what? Woof.
Hey, what are those lights?
Right.
Stars awfully bright tonight.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Just the archer, like just arcane archery.
It broke my heart to see what they did to the arcane archer in 5th edition. If there are one, you know what? That's a good question. If there's one class that you would like to redesign, or one subclass that, if you had your way, like if Wizard came up to you and was just like, you can redesign any one of our subclasses, what would it be? Because mine, without a doubt, would be Arcane Archer, because they went from being my favorite in 3.5 to seeing what they are now and going, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. That's interesting. I think Elementalist Monk and Beast Ranger are ones that come up a lot. Those are two that like people aren't very happy with. I did make tweaks to the Arcane Archer in our own group to give them a little bit more arrows and usage of that instead of like 2 per session. But I think I would probably tweak the wild shape for druids. I would tweak the Moon Druid, because holding a full stat block and like keeping up with the stat blocks, I feel like you lose what's special about each animal because you're dealing with so much math. And I would rather do it to where your wild shape is like a special ability that you get, and then the rest of it stays more or less the same. A Pathfinder does something like that, where you have temporary hit points or something. It lasts for a minute or an hour, and then you get a special, like you get a different attack. So a bull like gets horns, a constrictor snake, I don't remember if there is one, gets like a constrict ability. But I think it would be cooler if, or maybe not even cooler, just easier for players and new players to grasp if you didn't have to open the monster manual to know what your shape does. Also, I would like to wild shape into things that aren't beasts.
Yes, please. That's something that I'm missing from 3.5. Like 3.5, you can become a magical beast. I'm not gonna get into it, but yeah, I definitely feel that. I like the Elementalist Monk choice. I feel like they're close with it, but everything is way too expensive.
It's super expensive.
It's so
I know
expensive.
that Stone Skin is what, like 7 key points or something?
Yeah, and even at max level, you only get 20 key points. So that's the bulk of your key points being spent on something like Stone Skin, when your AC is probably at least 20 anyways.
And I don't even think you get Fireball, which is just bewildering to me.
Oh yeah, with the Elementalist Monk, I don't think you do either.
You get like Wall of Fire, I think.
I think it would. Yeah. There. I think Wall of Fire is on there.
But that
and that's
like
pretty
9.
cool. Oh yeah, probably like 20.
With the monk, I feel like the base subclasses are all missing a little something. I feel like with all the base subclasses, you could tell that this was the beginning of 5th edition when they came out with it, because there's just that little bit of spice that's mixing. Like, for the life of me, I don't understand why shadow monks can't see in magical darkness, but warlocks can. That will forever drive me insane.
Yeah. And there's some of the designers we've talked before in like the DM's Guild Discord. There's definitely a power creep, Freudian slip or something about myself. Am I a coward? But there's definitely like a power creep over a while of the books that are coming out now. I think they're a little bit stronger than earlier ones. And I know that they did some fixes in Tasha's to kind of bumped the elemental monk a tiny bit. Now I think like if you do anything as an action that's not punching, you can still take your unarmed strike. So if you were to use one of your key points to cast Stone Skin, you can still wallop somebody as your bonus action, which you couldn't do before, which is nice. But yeah, I almost want them to at some point re-release the PHB, put the new Ranger in there.
That would be nice, yeah.
Yeah, but
or I was just gonna say, or amend the digital copies.
Mm-hmm. And I get it. It's awkward. I still have my first PHB, and there's like if you look in the spell section, there's a spell that doesn't exist in 5th edition that was supposed to be an 8th level spell called Trap the Soul, which got merged into Imprisonment. So you could tell that they were like starting to do something more necromantic, and it never made it in there, and it wasn't caught, which is kind of cool. But I hope that whatever next edition, I love 5e. I'm happy with 5e. It's easy to learn, but I would like to see the short rests removed.
Really?
Yeah. I think because that's something that's controlled by the DM and their game, and I think that there are a lot of campaigns now that, like for instance, Tomb of Annihilation, you do the hex crawl, so you have like 1 or 2 encounters a day. You basically do your alpha strike or whatever, and then the next day you've rested, you're fully back to everything. You haven't spent anything. But with these short rests, unless you're in a dungeon, it's totally up to your DM to say, yeah, you can, or no, you can't. And some of the classes like the Warlock or that Key Monk, or the Elementalist Monk, they're really dependent on that short rest to do what they do best. So it would be nice to just have a single day, and then give somebody either some reservoir that they can use to get hit points back, and just design the classes around a 24-hour cycle.
That is an interesting way to look at it. I think, and just to cut it for a second here, I think I felt that way a little bit, but there was a fix that they implemented, which is the catnap spell.
Yeah.
Which has been it has been a game changer for the parties that I'm in, where I'm playing like a monk or a paladin or something like that.
Yeah, and that's interesting too. It's from like a design perspective too. I'm not a fan of 3 to 5 encounters per adventuring day, because I find it so rare that actually happens in the adventure outside of a dungeon. And usually in the dungeon, those encounters are usually a little bit harder than medium encounters, and there's usually more of them. Like the players, they don't like to retreat. Like they're going to keep going. You put 20 encounters in a dungeon, they're going to go until one of them is dead or somebody is basically unconscious, and then they'll probably just keep going deeper in. So it'd be nice for like adventure writing if there was some way in the mechanics that I could stimulate a challenge without it being deadly. And I think that at the higher levels that I've GM'd and seeing other people talk about high level play, the instinct is to rack up that CR, or I guess ramp up that CR, and introduce these deadly monsters that every encounter is like life or death, and that's too swingy for me. I don't want to be like right on the teetering of a TPK. I want to fight to be pretty hard without worrying about killing everybody.
No, I feel that. I think one of the design choices that I didn't agree with 5th edition is 5th edition has a philosophy, it feels, of toning down magic items and potions and scrolls and things of that nature, which were crucial back in 3.5. I love the idea of magic being around, or people discovering new magics and making potions and things like of that nature. So I'm slowly introducing more potions into my world to help me combat this issue of like, well, my party's gonna keep going forward even though they should stop.
Yeah.
I'm actually working on a couple of potions that will give you back like one of your once per day type abilities, but it'll have a sort of drawback that's more narrative based.
Cool.
Because I think that that is where you can tell some really cool stories.
Yeah.
Which is, I'll give you some power back, but now we're gonna mess with your character's life a little bit. So yeah.
Those trade-offs are also interesting, are always interesting. I'm working on a small supplement on like expiring potions. It's like what happens if you find a potion that's been there for a long time.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and in the play test that I've done for it, people liked the narrative one. One of the ones was like, if you drink an expired potion of mind reading, you can still mind read, but you speak your own thoughts aloud very loudly. So you can try to read other people's minds, but you're gonna be like, it's really hot in here, I think. And it's I don't know, it just sounds fun. So there were some that were more mechanical, like you drink an expired potion of Storm Giant strength, you're still gonna get the resist, or I think it like made you resistant or not or vulnerable to lightning damage because Storm Giants have lightning. Something's off about the potion. And some people said, I really like the narrative ones. I would almost want to see more of those. So like if you drink a potion of growth, maybe only your left arm grows big. So you get some of the benefit of the spell. Arm. But you're walking around with like a twice as big arm, or you shrink tiny, but your head is still the same size or something. And
Stone Giant potion, everything becomes large except your hands, so you have little baby hands.
Yeah, something like that. Because I think it's fun. You still get to use the magic item, but it's also got some sort of it makes the session more interesting. It's kind of like a wild magic table. So.
The tiniest baby hands, like the ones that they use in the TikToks.
Yeah.
So what's kind of funny is I am designing a potion right now. Its working title is the Potion of Empowering Truth, which is it gives you back a once per day ability. So if let's say you're an ASMR and you want to get your wings back for whatever reason. Well, you drink this, but you suffer the effects of the Zone of Truth spell all day, or until you take a long rest. So it's just cool. Like you got your power back, but you can't tell a lie until you go to sleep. So I love that idea of becoming popular because I feel like that leads to more interesting story beats.
Yeah, Sadie Lowry and Laura Hirschbrunner. I've worked with them both a few times. I think there was one other person, but they did a DM's Guild supplement on with the Deck of Many Things, but it's reimagined, I think, to be more story based and role play. So I think there's different ways you can use it. There's one that's more like questy, and then other ones that when you pull certain cards, it affects the storytelling potential of the game. Instead of just this is the effect, it's like, here's the effect and here's how it's going to change the narrative. And I think that's so cool. And the randomness on top of that just makes it more exciting.
Heck yeah. I love that. It feels like that's where 5th edition is going. We've all become well versed enough in the rules to kind of understand advantage, disadvantage, all that good stuff, inspiration, la-di-da. But now, instead of rewarding players with just mechanic stuff or requiring, something off of the character sheet, let's really get into this story. Who are these characters? What do they love? What are they hiding? And what happens if those things are exposed?
Yeah.
This is a great way to go.
I love the when they started introducing the role tables in the subclasses. Like for the Clockwork Sorcerer, like how does the Clockwork Soul manifest? Your character might be like triangle shaped or something, like a Modron. And it's so cool that they include that. And if they do ever re-release the Player's Handbook, I would love if they made those tables for things like Beastmasters. What is your Beast Companion like? Do they have any animal quirks? Like, are they territorial, or are they very cuddly or fluffy or something like that?
Yeah, they had those for the Great Render, when that came out, is there's like a list of quirks for the Great Render. Like they like to
Oh.
hunt with their chosen companion. They are very territorial. They like to dig giant holes in the ground.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I remember. That's the one that's kind of like, well, obviously gray, but that's that like big beastie monstrosity that like pairs with one person or
Yeah, they
something.
bond. Yeah.
So cool.
So you could use them as like a ranger's animal companion if you wanted to. I think that was a
Gosh.
plot hook in campaign 1 of Critical Role that got a little bit left by the wayside.
Oh, interesting. That is
But
super cool. I'll have
yeah.
to look that up.
Um I think that this is a good place as any to wrap it up for the day. You think? Yeah?
Yeah,
So
sure. Sounds great.
we'll start our outros.
Awesome.
Starting with you, Justice. Who are you? Where can we find you? What do you do on the internet? Tell us everything, but not
Yeah,
everything.
so my name is Justice Arman. I am a game designer and goblin at Beetle and Grimm's. I've written for D&D Adventures League, MCTM. You can find me on Twitter at Justice Arman or at my website, www.justicearman.com, which I'm so thankful that that domain wasn't taken already. And I will also end with, I would love to combine warlocks and clerics under the same class, and because they shouldn't be two separate classes, and that's where I'll drop that one.
That's perfect. I'm Anita. You can find me here pretty much every day of the week because Critical Misses is the channel that I founded. So you can find me here Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and then Fridays behind the scenes running tech for all our shows. And Saturdays, again, for Morning Ritual. Our guest next week is Sarah's Coffee. It's going to be wonderful talking with Sarah. But yeah, that. Oh, and Sundays you can find me over on Global Press for Into the Southlands.
All right. And hello, everybody. I'm Noir. Going to keep it short and simple. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram as the Noir Enigma. You can find me on TikTok as Noir Enigma. And if you want to see what I'm up to, I do have my schedule pinned on my Twitter. So check it out there. That's me.
But yeah, we're going to go on a raid. Do we have any suggestions on who we should be popping into today? Just going to have a quick look and see who is online. I don't really see anyone. All I have is recommended channels. Everyone seems to be offline.
We could go ahead and show. We could go ahead and show Trooper some love.
Oh, Trooper's online?
Yeah, Trooper SJP.
All right, so we're going to go raid Trooper SJP. But we will talk to you again next time. But until then, the ritual has concluded. Bye, everybody.